Camping promises peace, fresh air, and escape from the modern world. But isolation comes with a price. Out in the wilderness, help is miles away, and not everything you hear in the woods is an animal. Sometimes the trees hide things far older and far more dangerous than anything you've imagined. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more scary stories. It was supposed to be a simple weekend escape. 4 friends, Josh, Ethan, Marcus, and Ryan, decided to go camping deep in the Cascade Mountains. No phones, no Wi-Fi, just a couple nights under the stars. Josh had found an old trailhead on some backpacker forum, barely marked, supposedly leading to a beautiful secluded clearing no one really used anymore. Perfect for a quiet weekend. They parked, hiked in, and by early evening had their tent set up in a wide clearing, surrounded by pine. The fire was going, beers were cracked, and the night was calm. Pure silence, broken only by the wind through the trees and the occasional owl. Around midnight, they all turned in. But that night would be the last time anything felt normal. The first strange thing happened in the morning. Ethan was the first one up, stretching outside his tent, when he noticed something strange through the trees. About 50 yards out, another tent. Small, dark green, set up near a fallen log. He hadn't seen it the night before, and it definitely wasn't there when they arrived. He figured someone else must have hiked in after them and set up quietly in the night. Still, it unnerved him. They were supposed to be completely alone out here. "Yo, we got neighbors," he said when the others stirred. Josh walked over to take a look, squinting through the trees. "That's weird, man. There's no tracks. How the hell did they carry gear in here?" Marcus joked that it was probably a survivalist or someone wanting to be left alone. They agreed to stay in their lane and not go near the site. But something felt wrong about it. The tent was perfectly clean. No signs of gear, a fire pit, or even a trail leading up to it. It was like it had just been placed there. That night the unease grew. They sat by the fire, joking, eating canned chili. But they couldn't stop glancing at the tree line where the second tent sat, still. Silent. No movement. No light. No noise. As the fire died down, Josh pulled out a flashlight. "I'm gonna go check it out." Everyone told him not to, said it wasn't worth it. But he laughed them off. Maybe they brought marshmallows. He walked off toward the second tent, disappearing into the trees. They watched his flashlight bob through the woods. Then, it stopped. A long pause. And then he screamed. The flashlight hit the ground, spinning in the leaves. They sprinted after him. When they reached the second tent, Josh was standing there, pale and shaking. I didn't unzip it," he said. "I was about to, and someone whispered from inside." The others looked around. No footprints. No gear. Just the tent and Josh's dropped flashlight. Ryan finally stepped forward and yanked the zipper. Empty. No sleeping bag. No supplies. Just leaves and dirt. The 4 of them stood in silence. And then Marcus noticed something that made his blood run cold. The tent wasn't staked down. They didn't sleep much that night. Ethan swore he heard someone walking around their camp around 2 a.m. Josh kept a knife in his hand. Marcus never zipped his tent shut, just in case. But nothing happened. When the sun came up, they decided to pack up and leave early. No one said it out loud, but they all felt the same thing. They weren't wanted here. But as they packed, Ryan, who had gone to fill his water bottle at the stream, came running back, panicked. "There's another one!" he gasped. They followed him down a narrow path behind the trees. Another tent. identical to the first. Same size, same color, same eerie stillness. And this one had a mirror inside it. A square, antique-looking mirror propped up on a small wooden crate, facing the entrance. No reflection showed in it, just darkness. Marcus stepped toward it, but Josh grabbed his arm. They hiked out in silence, but after 20 minutes, Ethan stopped. "This isn't the trail," he said. They looked around. The path looked similar, but something was off. The trees were too close together. The markers on the trees, little colored flags, were missing. They backtracked. After another 30 minutes, they returned to the clearing, their camp. And now, there were 3 tents, all identical, all empty, all facing the center of the clearing. None of them were theirs. Their gear was gone. Fire pit cold. No sign they'd ever been there. Josh started hyperventilating. Marcus turned and ran in the direction they came. Ryan and Ethan chased him. Josh followed, clutching his knife. They ran for what felt like hours, through branches, over rocks. Finally, they came to a clearing and stopped dead. There in front of them were the 3 tents, waiting. This time the flaps were open. Inside each tent sat a mirror, each one reflecting something wrong. One showed Ethan, but older, with hollow eyes. Another showed Marcus, smiling, but his teeth were sharp and too many. The third showed all 4 of them, standing in the clearing, just like now. But the tent flaps were closed, and the reflection showed someone standing behind them. They turned around. Nothing. But Josh wasn't breathing. He was staring into the trees, eyes wide. Then he whispered, "I see a 4th one." They never made it out. Police reports say their car was found at the trailhead, packed and locked. No sign of a campsite, no gear, no tracks. The official report says they probably got lost. But a ranger who searched the area found something strange 2 weeks later. A tent, small, dark green, set up in a clearing where no one camps. Inside was a crate, and on it sat a dusty mirror, facing the trees. Colin was an experienced solo hiker, 31, fit, and borderline obsessive about backcountry trails. He called it resetting, heading out into remote wilderness with a pack, a map, and no one else around, just nature and his thoughts. In early October, he picked a trail he'd never tried before, the Ridgewater Loop, a lesser-known trail deep in the Appalachian Mountains. He found it through an old hiking forum, where someone had posted GPS coordinates and photos of a trailhead with hand-carved wooden markers. The poster claimed the trail was peaceful, untouched, and almost spiritual. Colin was sold. He packed light and set out early Friday morning. He wouldn't come back. The hike started out beautifully. The air was crisp, leaves changing into reds and oranges. The trail weaved through dense woods, over creeks, up narrow ridgelines. Colin passed a few of the old wooden trail markers, simple slabs nailed to trees, each with a carved number. 1, 2, 3. At marker 6, the forest grew strangely quiet. No birds, no insects, just the wind. By marker 11, Colin noticed the carvings looked newer, too clean, like someone had cut them recently. He kept going. At marker 17, the trail forked. There was no map, but a small arrow was carved beneath the number, pointing left. He hesitated. Something about the fork felt wrong. The right path looked overgrown, but the left was clear, well-worn, inviting, too inviting. He went left. 10 minutes later, he passed marker 17 again. He froze. He hadn't looped around. He'd been walking straight. But there it was, Same slab of wood, same neat carving, same arrow pointing left. Maybe there were duplicates, a lazy trail maker. He took a photo and kept walking. Another 15 minutes. Another marker, 17. He checked his phone. No signal. GPS stuck. He turned around, walked back the way he came. After 30 minutes, he passed. Marker 17. Again. Now he was panicking. He dropped his pack, grabbed his emergency compass. It spun in slow, lazy circles. Colin cursed, circled the area, found no other trail markers, no signs of a loop, just dense, repetitive forest and the same marker. When he looked back toward where he dropped his pack, it was gone. So was the trail, only trees, and nailed to the nearest one. Another marker, 17. This time the wood looked cracked, the number warped, almost melting. He called out, shouted for help. Silence. Then, a snap in the brush behind him. He turned. Nothing. No wind. No movement. But the air felt closer. Like something was watching. As night fell, he pulled out his flashlight and survival blanket. He found a dry patch beneath a tree and sat, knife in hand. At midnight, he heard whistling. Slow, off-key, coming from the woods. No footsteps. Just the sound. He called out again. Nothing. But when he scanned with his light, he saw something between the trees. A figure. Too tall. Slender. Standing perfectly still, just beyond the reach of his flashlight. He shouted. It didn't move. Then, the whistling stopped, and it mimicked his voice. Help! Please! But it wasn't right. It was slow. Broken. Like a recording played backward. Colin ran. He didn't stop until he collapsed. When he looked up, another marker, 17. This one was bleeding. He swore there was liquid, dark, thick, running down the wood. He touched it. Not sap. Warm. The whistling started again. Closer this time. He bolted, zigzagging through the trees, until he found an old wooden shelter, one of those three-sided lean-tos, used by through hikers. It was abandoned, collapsing. He ducked inside and waited, for hours. Just before dawn, the whistling stopped. He peeked out. The woods were still. He stepped outside, and nailed to the side of the shelter. Marker 18. He almost cried. He was out. He hiked until noon. The trees began to thin. He found the original trailhead. His car was still there. He didn't look back. 2 days later, he reviewed the photo he'd taken of the first marker 17. Except, it wasn't there. The picture showed nothing but trees. No marker, no number. He checked his gear. His compass, still spinning. The next day, he checked the hiking form where he'd found the Ridgewater Loop post. It was gone. Not deleted. Never existed. No user history. No mentions. Like it had never been written. Colin hasn't hiked alone since. He dreams about the forest almost every night. And sometimes, when he drives alone and tunes the radio to static, he swears he hears whistling in between the noise. Always the same off-key tune. And behind it, his own voice whispering, "Help, please." Just like it did at marker 17. It happened last fall, deep in the Adirondacks. 3 friends, Ben, Troy, and Matt, decided to do a weekend camping trip before winter hit. They picked a remote spot off an unmarked trail they found on an old map in a ranger station. The area wasn't listed on modern hiking apps, which they took as a good sign. No tourists, no families with kids, just 3 guys and the wilderness. The hike in was long and steep, but the view from their site was worth it. Dense trees, a glacial lake, and silence so complete it made your ears ring. They set up 2 tents, gathered firewood, and cooked over the flame until the sun dipped below the treetops. Everything felt perfect, until the second fire appeared. It was just after 1 a.m. The guys had long since doused their fire, zipped into their sleeping bags, and passed out. The only light in the clearing came from the moon above, occasionally filtered by drifting clouds. Then Ben woke up. He wasn't sure why. No sounds, no nightmares. Just a cold prickle in his spine that pulled him out of sleep. He rubbed his eyes and sat up in his tent, glancing out through the mesh. And that's when he saw it. Another fire. Orange light, flickering through the trees, about 100 yards away, just past the slope. At first, he thought it was sunrise, until he remembered how dark it still was. The fire was too low, too contained. Someone was out there. He shook Matt awake, who groggily peered outside and cursed under his breath. Then they woke Troy. All three stood outside their tents, silently staring through the trees. It wasn't just the fire. They could hear laughter. Faint. Like a campfire conversation, but too distorted. Like voices echoing from the bottom of a well. Ben raised his voice. "Hello?" The laughter stopped. So did the firelight. 1 second it was flickering through the branches, and the next, complete darkness. Troy said it best. "I don't like that. I don't like that at all." They stayed up the rest of the night, watching, listening. Nothing came. The next morning they checked the area. No ashes. No rocks from a fire pit. No footprints. No crushed brush. It was like nothing, and no one had ever been there. Troy wanted to leave. Matt said it was probably just other campers screwing around. Ben was stuck in the middle, but curiosity got the better of him. They stayed another night. They'd regret it. That second night, they kept the fire burning late. None of them wanted to fall asleep too early. Just before 2 a.m., they heard the laughter again, but this time, it was closer. They killed their fire immediately, sitting in silence. Through the trees, another fire burned, not 100 yards away, maybe 50. The laughter was louder now, but still warped. It sounded human, almost. They heard what sounded like a woman giggle, followed by the deep grunt of a man. But the rhythm was off, like they were mimicking conversation, not having it. Ben turned on his flashlight. The second the beam flickered toward the other fire, it vanished. Laughter gone. Flames gone. Dead silence. Then they saw the footprints. Not coming from the direction of the second fire, but circling their own campsite. Bare feet. Too long. Toes splayed wide. The prints were soaked, as if whoever made them had walked through a bog. But their fire had been burning the whole time. No one should have gotten close without being seen. They checked the tents. Their sleeping bags were moved. Troy's was turned upside down. And someone had added a fourth bag next to Ben's. A bag none of them owned. It was damp, cold, and warm inside, like someone had just left it. That was it. They grabbed their things and left. Flashlights cutting through the darkness, barely speaking. They followed the trail back toward the car in the dark. But after 30 minutes, they passed a familiar stump. One they'd seen near their campsite. Somehow, they'd gone in a circle. They stopped. Tried again. Ben marked a tree with his knife. 20 minutes later, they passed it again. The bark was still fresh. Then came the smoke. Ahead of them, another fire, burning in the middle of the trail. No sound now, no laughter. Just the fire, roaring higher than it should. They turned to run and heard footsteps behind them. Wet, slapping, fast. Ben turned his flashlight behind them and caught a glimpse of something running into the trees. Tall, thin, soaked. It had no eyes, just a wide, slack mouth hanging open, like it was laughing, silently. They didn't stop running. Eventually, they burst into a gravel road and found their car. No signs of the fire, no figures, just silence. They drove all night, never spoke of it again. Ben deleted the hiking forum post he used to find the trail. Troy moved across the country. Matt doesn't camp anymore. But last week, Ben got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a small bundle of firewood. And a note. You left your bag. He checked the wood, still damp, and it smelled like smoke.